welcome to your real estate journey, expert tips for buyers and sellers. I'm Dolly Lopez, your real estate agent and broker in the state of Florida and Kentucky. And today's Thursday. I am with my lovely Valerie, one of the best real estate attorneys in this whole state of Florida. Welcome, Valerie. How are you?
So great, Dolly. Thank you so much for those kind words. And we're super excited to be here with you. And not only are you such a great realtor, but it's your team that we love to work with.
I love working with you guys just because we just handle things.
Yeah,
and we get things
done. It works.
Today, I wanted to talk about real estate taxes and property assessments. So, what is the property assessment versus property taxes? Like, how are they different?
When we're looking at a property assessment, the property assessment is something you can actually find on public record. That's something you can go to your property appraiser of whatever county you're in Florida. For instance, in Miami, it would be your Miami-Dade property appraiser. You go ahead, put in your address, and you'll see that there is an assessment to your property. That assessment is done by the county, and it's included to the land. It's only really specific as to the land. It really doesn't take into consideration the property and the structure together. So that's why people assessment is so low, and they're like, I don't understand. I just bought my property, and let's say I bought it for $500,000, but it says it's only worth, $195,000 on the property assessment as according to the county. Well, that's because they're only looking at the land, right? You don't have someone going out to the property, looking at the inside, looking to see if there's renovations, looking to see if there's a pool. But none of that is done. So the property assessment is just a tool the county also uses in order to determine what the property taxes for that specific property will be for the given year.
Awesome. So that brings me to the next point. Whenever we're doing a closing, what taxes are you basing it on? Because they're proration of taxes. So
Correct.
What are you using to base that tax on?
So we always use the last year's property tax bill. Property taxes are paid in arrears. What does that mean? They're paid backwards. So we're always going to use in 2024, for example, we're in 2024, we're using the bill that came out in 2023 because property tax bills don't come out until November. We're still in September. So our only and most accurate reading of what the property taxes are is going to be using the most recent bill. And for this year, the most recent bill still maintains the 2023 taxes that came out last November of 2023. Now, if your closing is going to happen November 1st on, then we're going to be using that year's tax bill, and that's the most accurate. Obviously, that's the best, but unfortunately, that's not the circumstance for everybody because it all determines as to when you're buying your property.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Now, so for you guys that are purchasing a property, please keep in mind that your monthly payment will most likely go up the following year because, once again, just as the closing office is based in the taxes of the last year taxes, the same thing happens for lenders. Us lender, we use the last year taxes to prorate to make up of your monthly payment. So just know that for sure, 99% positive, your monthly payment will increase the following year whenever the new tax comes. Now, what, Valerie, based on what are the property taxes get increased every year? Do you know? How does that work?
So I don't know the exact equation that the county uses. The county is the one that determines our property taxes and determines the assessed value for that property tax. But one of the terms used in that equation is going to be the most recent sale of the property, which is why so many people who buy properties, I like to tell them at the closing, especially when I'm dealing with a property that hasn't been sold in 20, 30 years and all of a sudden it's being sold. It's very important to know as a buyer, if you're buying a property that the seller has owned that property for about 20, 15, 30 years, you're going to be looking at a very high increase in property taxes. Because like I mentioned, one of the parts of the equation that a county will use to determine the property taxes is going to be the most recent sale. So sometimes that most recent sale is not even remotely close to the value of the actual property of the contract that you have because the sale was based off 20 years ago. So it's very important that the buyers know that and expect that, because you can almost guarantee that in the following year, your lender, if you do have an escrow account, will contact you and say, hey, your escrow account is short by X amount of dollars because your property taxes has gone up, X amount of money, whatever the situation may be for that specific property.
And one question to kind of end up in this section of my question about taxes, can those taxes be disputed? And if so, where would we go to dispute taxes if I think it's way too high?
Yeah, 100% they could be disputed. I've seen them disputed. I've actually not myself handled, but we've disputed property taxes for my dad in a commercial property. I myself don't do it. Our office doesn't do it, but we do have attorneys that we work very well with and that we know very well that can handle that kind of dispute. And if you truly believe that you feel that your property taxes were not assessed accurately, then please give us a call. We'll give you the referral to who you can contact, someone who has specific knowledge as to how to handle that kind of dispute.
Perfect. And lastly, before we end up our podcast today, can you talk to me about a homestead? What's homestead? Why is it important? And what does people need to be in the lookout for?
So very important in Florida. Homestead is one of the benefits of living in Florida. So homestead exemption gives you, and just so everybody knows what homestead exemption is when your property taxes are given a discount because the property that you are requesting homestead exemption is your primary home. That is where you're going to be living as your primary residence, where you'll be there, and you have to be there more than 50% of the year. Just so that you know, that is one of the requirements when you fill out homestead in Florida, is that you're going to be living in this property more than 50% of the year. So if that is the situation, then I would 100% tell you, please make sure you apply to homestead. The homestead exemption deadline is March 1st of every year. So if you're buying your property today, right now, today's September 12th, you need to make sure that by March 1st, you've already submitted your application for homestead exemption, so you can assure that your property taxes are going to go up, but they can also come down a little bit because of that discount that you get as using it as your primary home. And it's considers a lot of protections as well.
Yeah, because I believe when it's your homestead property, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it will be more difficult for creditors to force
that is
property or to
100% with homestead property. There's only certain liens that can attach to a homestead property. One of those are going to be property taxes. If you don't pay your property taxes, the county can put a lien. One of them is going to be called a mechanics lien, which means if someone is doing some kind of improvement to your property, you hire someone to do the floors, you hire somebody to do the kitchen, you hire somebody to do a pool, and you don't pay them, they also have a right to put a lien on the property. And then lastly, the IRS, which we know the IRS can do everything and anything they want. So if you don't pay your taxes, that is also another way that your homestead property can be liened. But that's it, no one else. So if you get sued and there's a deficiency judgment, that does not mean that judgment attaches to your property in any sort of way.
Awesome. Valerie, thank you so much. For you guys watching at home, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. It helps us a lot for the algorithm to kind of know that it's good content, or at least we think it's good. Yeah. And it will help us a lot if you subscribe to our channel and share our content. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us directly. Both of the phone numbers are going on the screen right now. So feel free to call. We'll have the answer for you. And if we don't, we'll make sure to get it. Thank you, Valerie. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.